Hello guys, welcome back to another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it was forwarded to me by one of our admins. If you have any story that you want to share with us, please do not hesitate to contact us via our email address. The message that I have for you reads like this: Confession of a Witch Doctor. This is how I was converted into Christianity. I was born to parents who were non-believers, and my grandfather was really a very powerful traditional healer, but he was not like those clean traditional healers, because there are two kinds of traditional healers: the ones that will just assist you, give you some clean herbs. Then there are those that seems to be talking or working with the devil. Our homestead was ever full with people who came to consult, and also people who were into rituals, be it money rituals, power rituals, and a whole lot of things like that. At first, my own grandfather, he was not like this. He was just a very poor herbalist, but I don't know what happened to him, because one day we just heard that our grandfather was missing, and we didn't know where our grandfather had gone to. Then he spent about 2 months and we didn't know where he was. Then one day he just came back, and when he came back, he was carrying a bag that was loaded with a lot of charms and a lot of herbs. Then he locked himself up for another 2 weeks, and he said that he was busy fighting with the ancestors. This was quite strange. Even our own relatives came from all the corners of our country because they wanted to know what our grandfather was up to. But it seemed as if at the place where he had gone to collect his powers, they had really done some things to him, so that everything that he will tell you, you will end up doing. Because when my grandfather was locked up in his bedroom, my father's relatives, they had their own meeting, and they kept on saying that they wanted to deal with my grandfather. But on the day that he walked out of his bedroom, it seemed as if everyone who was gathered at our compound had seen a god. It was like there was worship. It was as if God was now walking amongst us, because our grandfather came out of his bedroom a very powerful man. There was this other woman who was mentally ill. My grandfather just pointed his walking stick at that woman who was brought to our compound because she was mentally ill. And after my grandfather had pointed his walking stick, that is when that woman started to cry, and she cried so much as if she was under the possession of a very powerful demon. But my father seemed to be more powerful than the demon that was speaking. That is when that demon started to ask for forgiveness from my grandfather. Then my grandfather instructed that demon to go and to never come back, so as to afflict that woman. That is how that lady came back to her senses. After my grandfather had performed that miracle, that is when at our compound we had our first cattle, because that woman and her family, they later came and thanked my grandfather. They gave my grandfather 5 cows and some money. After that, a lot of people used to come to our grandfather so that my grandfather can perform a lot of rituals for them. A few weeks before my grandfather died, I had finished secondary school. It is when I was called by elders in our home, and I was told that I had to carry on with the gift that my grandfather had. Dear brother, a lot of people out there, they will pretend as if they really love God. But when my grandfather died, that is when I saw that people who only worship the Lord by just saying that we love the Lord with their mouth only, but they will never try to follow what the Bible says. Because in our family, a lot of my relatives, they used to go to church. There was this other relative of ours who was a bishop in those white garment churches. That uncle of mine, when he heard that my grandfather had fallen sick, he rushed from where he was staying. He came so as to speak with my grandfather. We didn't know what he wanted to tell my grandfather, but later on, my grandfather told my father and his brothers that our uncle, when he came back, he was asking for powers from my grandfather, and he asked my grandfather if he could be given my grandfather's walking stick after he had passed away. This is what a man will do if he is after power. So what my grandfather then said before he passed away, he pointed at me and he said that I was the one who was supposed to inherit his powerful walking stick, but that powerful walking stick, it just disappeared. And he said that so as to show you that I have chosen this young one for him to inherit all of my powers, I am going to hide this walking stick, and it is only him who can find where I would have hidden this walking stick. After the death of my grandfather, then all the preparations were done for his memorial. Then after his memorial, that is when I was told that I had to go into the mountains where my grandfather had pointed. He had pointed at these far off mountains that were very far from our village, that even my own father, he was confused as to how my grandfather was going to manage to walk to those mountains that were so far away, but he meant that he was going to spiritually travel there. I was then given a task so as to go and retrieve that walking stick before they could perform any rituals on me. I went there, my brother, and I don't know how I actually managed to get hold of that walking stick. But once I was near that mountain, that is when I started to hear the voice of my grandfather. He was speaking with me and he was telling me exactly where he had hidden his walking stick. I went into this cave, and in that cave, I swear that I saw a leopard, and my grandfather told me not to be afraid because his spirit had been possessing that leopard since his death, because he didn't want anyone to enter inside that cave and he didn't want anyone to take his powerful walking stick. When I had entered into that cave, that leopard just growled at me, then it ran away. It didn't even hurt me or anything. It was really afraid of me. When I got hold of that walking stick, I don't know what happened next. The next thing, I found myself being surrounded by my father and his relatives. I don't know how I had managed to travel from that mountain coming back to our compound. My grandfather's belongings were shared first amongst our fathers, then us the grandkids, and I was given a big trunk. Back in those days, there were these big metal trunks. That is the trunk that was given to me. It was a black metallic trunk that was full of his healing things, black and red clothes, and a lot of things. That is when I began my journey into the dark world. I call it dark because of the practice that I later started to do. Of course, I know that out there is a traditional healing whereby we use African herbs. That is not bad. Please hear me clearly. There are African herbs that has been used by our own people, but there are other spirits out there that are always looking for a body to possess. And those traditional healers that are possessed by those spirits, those are the evil ones. Those spirits, all that they want to do is to make sure that human beings, they sin as much as they can when they are still in this world, using spirits to drive other people mad, rituals and controlling other people. There is nothing as bad as a money-making ritual, because blood has to be spilled for you to make money in this physical world, because you'll be given a gift that will not have been given unto you at the time of your birth. So blood will be required for you to be given that gift. The example that I can give you is that at the time of your birth, there is blood that is spilled by your mother. That is a sort of a sacrifice to the earth. When you are being born, when blood spills from your mother as she is giving birth to you, that is when you are given a free gift. But if you want any extra gift like money and things like that, you have to spill blood because you will be wanting an extra gift. So my first assignment was when we had to go to another village where there was no peace at night because of a group of witches that were causing havoc. I had the power to trap witches and see them. How? Because birds of the same feathers, we all work together. Because when you are in this business, what you do is that when you go around, sometimes there are other people who come to your consulting room. Then they will be open with you. They will tell you that at the time of their certain relative, when their relative died, they left them with the gift of being a witch, but they don't want to be a witch. So I would negotiate with that spirit of witchcraft that will be upon them, and I will negotiate with it so that it can come and live with me, and I will give it whatever it wants. So when a client will come to me and they will ask me to perform a ritual whereby I can cause another person to go mad, then I will consult with that spirit that I would have gotten from another person that would have come to me telling me that they don't want to be a witch anymore. Then I would have negotiated with that spirit of witchcraft and it will agree, because the spirit will know that no matter what, as long as it will be in my homestead, it will keep on doing its work. What those spirits don't want is for them to be chased away completely. They will try as much as they can so as to keep on living in this world, not to be sent back to hell. So I had the powers to trap these witches. What I'll do is that the moment that I would enter into a certain area, I would even communicate with the spirit or the higher being of that place, because each and every territory, there is a higher being that controls everything that happens in that place. It doesn't matter if you are a Christian or if you are not a Christian. No matter where you go, each and every territory, it belongs to a spirit. We left with my team, so I used to go around with my team and we would go into the village that would be in question. So the chief would have gathered all the people in one place, and all the men and the women were to take a stand and prove their innocence before me. This was done by jumping a stick on top of a stick. I would set up my trap, and this trap would work as if it would be a magnet. In our country, they call it tsikamtanda, because you have to jump a walking stick. And if you are a witch, then you will not be able to jump that walking stick, because inside that walking stick, a lot of powerful entities would have possessed that walking stick. So you can never hide. As long as you are a witch, you have to bow down to those powerful entities, and they go in front of me so as to defend me. Yo, dear listeners, where there was a message that was forwarded to me, then I had to ask one of our admins to give us a translation. I'll be back with the rest of the message.